Hi all, a warm welcome to my channel. Today in this video, we are going to learn how to question the ChatGPT to generate an analytic code with Python using the libraries of pandas and matplotlib. So for this use case, I have a specific data in hand. So the data is going to be Stockholm temperature, and the Stockholm temperature data is in the format of an Excel. So the extension of this file is XLSX. So how this file is going to look like? The file is going to look like this. So it has some set of columns and it has enormous number of rows. So we have a data which is captured from the year of 1756, till the date of 2023. So basically what this file is going to carry is the date, the month, and the day as well. So day wise temperature data has been captured in this particular sheet. So this is specific to a region called Stockholm, and we will be having enormous amount of data to analyze, but we are going to consider only a filtered data starting from a specific period of range to analyze this. So the first column is all about the date, and the second column is all about the temperature that's been recorded for that particular day. So how we are going to use this data so that we can ask as a question to the ChatGPT to generate an analytic code of Python, so that we can execute that Python code and see the visualization of this analyzed data in a chart format. It could be a line chart or it could be a bar chart. So how to perform this? So we'll step into the action step by step. So the first thing that we have to do right now is we need to capture the name of this file. So the name of the file is Stockholm_temperature. So just copy this file name, and you also should be aware of XLSX as an extension. The main thing that you have to note down here is it can be in the form of XLSX, or it can be in the form of CSV, or even it can be in the form of PDF. It doesn't matter in which format of file the data is, but specifically the data should have a separator in it. If it's a CSV file, usually we used to have a comma separated data representation, but when it comes to an XLS file format, then we are well aware that it's going to be in the rows and columns. So we knew how we can read this data and how to manipulate this using a Python code. But what I wanted to show as a demo here is how ChatGPT can help us in generating a code in a few seconds, and then we can ensure whether that code gives the desired result as per the use case that we have in hand. So the first thing that we have to do is let's go ahead and launch the ChatGPT. So chat.openai.com. Right now I've logged out, so I'm going to log in again. So most of you might be familiar with in using this tool. So this is pretty simplified tool in using it. So I'm going to log in with my login credentials. So let's step in and see how we can use this tool. So this is how a ChatGPT tool would appear. The moment you log in, it's pretty simplified and it's more intuitive. So you can access from anywhere, and it's also having loads of plugins which we can integrate into any of our development IDEs as well. So I'll be coming up with that set of videos, how to integrate the ChatGPT plugin into a Visual Studio Code, and we can generate a code sitting from our Visual Studio Code editor itself, and copy the code and drop it into your code editors and evaluate whether the code provides a desired output or not. But those things will be lined up in the other section of videos. So right now let's explore this tool. So the ChatGPT is an AI tool, as you all aware of it. So you might have been heard about this term pretty frequently nowadays. So the tool would appear like this, and on the left hand side you can see there is a button called New Chat. So right now I haven't generated any communication with the ChatGPT. So we are going to enable the first communication right now. So I'm just going to click on the New Chat button, and on the right hand side what you can observe is there is a window for a communication to be enabled with the ChatGPT. So here you have an option to send message. So we need to raise a question to the ChatGPT from this place. So using this text box, we can ask whatever question that we wanted, and we can ensure if that ChatGPT can give a desired response or not. So the first thing, as I stated, is what we have to do is we have to provide the file name that we already have. So what is the file name that we have here is stockholm_temperature, right? So let's go ahead and see if that can be used effectively in this particular chat window. So how are we going to question them? That's something very important, right? So we need to frame the question very clearly in such a way that ChatGPT can provide a relevant code for us. So I'm going to question this way, that I have a file named, so I'm going to paste the file name with an extension XLSX, and I'm going to provide these names within a double quotes. So this provides an emphasized statement, or it's more of a highlighting statement for the ChatGPT to understand very clearly that what is going to be the file name in this particular question. And so I have a file named stockholm_temperature.xlsx. The file has a date column, so we already explored that. So if you look at the Excel sheet, you have we have a column called date, and we are going to use this column, and we have a column called raw, which is going to hold the specific day's recorded temperature. There are multiple other columns that are there, but for this particular demonstration, we are going to use date column and raw column. Only these two columns that we are going to use. So the file has a date column. Okay, there's a date column, and so mention it very clearly. The file has a date column which contains the temperature observation date. Okay, so temperature observation date is mentioned in the date column, and we need to mention the format as well. So in which format the date is provided is year, month and day. So we need to mention that as well. So observation date in the format YYY followed with month and day. So this is the format of this particular column. So what I wanted to do is I want to find an aggregated temperature on year basis. So that's the condition that we are going to offer in this question, so that the ChatGPT can understand relevantly. So further to this, I'm going to say I want to aggregate the temperature, temperature by year. By year. We can mention the filtering condition as well, starting from the year 2000. Okay, starting from the year 2000. So I don't want to do an analysis starting from 1756, because it's going to generate an enormous number of visualization outcomes. So that will be pretty difficult to understand and visualize it. So in order to make it simplified outcome, we will start from 2000. So what this ChatGPT will do is the ChatGPT is going to understand this filtration, and it's going to generate a code in such a way that there will be a filtered line of code to filter the data starting from 2000. Okay, and it goes all the way till the end of the data. So 2000, and then plot. The plot meaning is we need to generate an visualized outcome, right? So in a bar chart or line chart, right? So we are asking the ChatGPT to plot, and then plot the yearly temperature across time. So across time meaning is like it captures the analysis across the time starting from 2000 till whatever time of data is available. So predominantly it's going to be till 2023. I have a data in this file, so probably you can just have a note on this. So let's go all the way down and just have a look at this. So we have a data till 2023, right? So let's go ahead and see that. Okay, so now across time, the temperature column name, the temperature column name is raw. So just now I highlighted that we have a column named raw. So this column is going to carry the temperature details, right? So that's what I'm trying to emphasize here to the ChatGPT, stating that please plot me the outcome based on the yearly temperature, and the temperature column name is raw in this particular file. So now write a script for me using Python, right? So I haven't mentioned any libraries as such. So if you notice that I've just shown you that we're going to use Python, pandas and matplotlib. Python is a language that we are using, but the libraries for the Python language is pandas and matplotlib, which we effectively use for data analysis. But I haven't mentioned anything about the pandas or matplotlib. So without that, let's see what the ChatGPT is going to use as a default libraries in order to generate this code as per the question that we have asked. So I'm going to copy this code once. Why I'm going to copy this code is because the ChatGPTs are having enormous number of requests every second. So sometimes it might act weirdly and the response might be weird, or sometimes the response might be erroneous. So we are not sure how the response is going to be. So sometimes we need to tend to provide the same question again to the ChatGPT. So in order to avoid future challenges, let's have a copy of this question. So in order to reiterate, it's pretty clear that I've mentioned very clearly to the so that the ChatGPT can understand it easily and generate me the desired code. So I mentioned I have a file named stockholm temperature.xlsx. The file has a date column which contains the temperature observation date, and that too it is going to be in the format of YYYY, MM and DD. So what I want the ChatGPT to perform is to find the aggregated temperature on a yearly basis and plot me the outcome of the yearly temperature across time. And the temperature column name is mentioned as raw, so it's going to consider all the temperature taken from the raw column. Okay, so mine is 8.7. It also has positive temperature recorded, so it's going to consider everything and find out an average of it. So finally, at the end, what I'm trying to mention very specifically is please write me a script for this scenario using Python. Okay, so let's hand over this code to the ChatGPT and see what the ChatGPT is going to respond for us. Pretty fast, ChatGPT have started to observe and understand the question that I have defined, and this is what the ChatGPT is coming up with an outcome. So you can see a pretty neat code have been is getting generated by ChatGPT, and moreover you can also find what that code is going to perform. Okay, it's going to give a line by line explanations very clearly, right? So we can have a lot of learning. So first let's observe this code and just copy this code. So we have the option to copy the code that's been generated by ChatGPT. So what it says is, hey, this is the breakdown of the script that I have generated. So what is happening here is, first we import the necessary libraries. Yes, of course, it imported the necessary libraries. As I mentioned, it imported the pandas and matplotlib. So that's what I highlighted, right? I haven't mentioned anything about the libraries in my question. If you look at the question once again, nowhere in my question I have mentioned anything about the libraries, but ChatGPT have taken pandas and the matplotlib as a library. But if you are very specific that you want to use a different library to generate a code for this data analysis, then probably we need to mention that as well in our question or in our query, so that the ChatGPT can be very specific on what library to be used to generate the code. So once the code have been generated, we are getting to know what that code is all about. So first we import the necessary libraries, pandas for data manipulations and matplotlib for plotting, and we read in the Excel file. So using the pandas library, it's going to read the data, and the data is mentioned in the format of Excel. So it's cleverly using the function called read Excel. So how it is getting to know that it has to use a function called read Excel, it's all because of the emphasized statement with an extension called XLSX. So ChatGPT has a intuitiveness to understand that it is an XLSX format, meaning is it's an Excel template. So it has to use a function called read Excel, and then it is going to perform the conversion of that data into a form of date time. Okay, because it has to perform the manipulations on top of it. So the format is also mentioned accordingly, and the DF is a data frame. So data frame is going to carry the entire data that's been read from the Stockholm temperature, and in specific to the data frame array, there is a column called date, which is going to be updated to a date time value. So we are fetching the date in an existing could be in a string format, and that need to be formatted to the specified year, month and date, and then it's going to convert them to a datetime. So what they are saying is convert the date column to a datetime object and store it back into the data frame. So using the data frame array references, they are further applying the condition that please consider the year greater than or equal to 2000, because that also I mentioned in my question. As you can notice, year starting from the year of 2000. So accordingly, it applied the condition. It's more of a filtering condition. So filter to only include observations starting from the year 2000 onwards. So based on that, it filters all the data and updates the data frame object. And from the data frame object, you are trying to do a group by based on the year, so, right? 2000, 2001, 2002. Group it and find the mean value of the raw column. So what is going to be the raw column? Raw column is nothing but the column which is going to contain the temperature. So group it on year basis and find the mean, typically an aggregated value, an average of it, average of the temperature on that particular year, and group it by year and store it in a separate variable called yearly temperatures. And now we are going to use the matplot library in order to generate the chart. So what it says is plot. There is a method called plot from the matplot library reference. So plot the index and the temperature values, and apply a labeling, which is X label is year, Y label is temperature, and also offer a title for that for the chart. And finally, once all the properties have been set to the particular the matplotlib reference object, and finally we are ready to show that chart as a visualization for the user using the show method. So this is what this particular ChatGPT have generated as a code, but we have to figure out if that is getting a desired output or not. So we have already copied the code. So what I'm going to do quickly is just go straight into this Python demo chat where we have the XLSX file. So right click and I'm going to launch a terminal screen. And from the terminal, I'm going to launch a Jupyter notebook to place the copied code and execute the code and see if it's going to generate the desired output or not. So here we go. So we already stepped into the specific folder, and from here you can create a new Python editor. So the Jupyter notebook would look like this, which will have a cell, and in each cell you can provide the Python code. So I'm going to paste the code which I've copied just now. So you can see exactly I've copied the code and I've dropped in. So it also offers with a comment. ChatGPT's advantage is also providing comments for each and every line. By that way, it's easy for beginners to learn and understand what that each line of code is trying to do. So once we have dropped this code, we are able to run. So if you look at this thing, it is creating an IPYNB file from the new Python editor option. So we can rename it. So I can say temperature analysis, right? So by this way you can rename it. If you go back, you can find that it's temperature underscore analysis, and from here you paste your copied code from the chat GPT's response. You can click run. So once you click run, let's see if it's going to generate a desired output. Yes, of course. So you can see 2000 to 2020 all the way. So it's taking some the year. So typically we have till 2023, but it's taken from 5 years of difference. So we still have 2023's record observed here. So it's more of a line chart, right? But this can be interpreted to a bar chart. So in order to generate it as a bar chart, then we can go back to the ChatGPT and have a continual conversation with the same query. So it is called as a continual conversation with the ChatGPT. So what I can ask is, hey, can you generate the code in bar chart? So it says certainly I can generate it. The code is all going to be the same. There's no much of a difference. Every single line is going to be the same as like how it generated earlier. But the only difference that you'll be finding is instead of a plot, it's going to have a bar here. See, since I've asked the ChatGPT to generate the outcome in the form of a bar chart, so it's converted that plot function into a bar function, and it is also giving an explanation for us, stating that the main change is that we have replaced plot function with bar function. The rest of the code remains the same. This should create a bar chart that shows the yearly average temperature in Stockholm for each year starting from 2000 onwards. So let's copy this code again. No difference other than the change of that plotting function. So replace this code and see only difference is the bar. Instead of plotting, it generated the bar chart. It's going to generate the bar chart. So let's see how the bar chart is going to be. Paste the code and click on the run button using the Jupyter IDE. Pretty good. So now you can see that there is a bar chart as the outcome of this particular code. So here pretty clearly we can see 2000 year, 2001, 2002, 2003, the average is this. So it's calculating the entire 12 months and day wise average to the year and averaged to the year, and we can able to identify that these are the labels that's been defined already. So set X label and Y labels, which is year and temperature, and also we have a title for this, which is yearly average temperature in Stockholm 2000 onwards. Very specifically mentioned that because we have our data starting from 1756, so the title says it's starting 2000 onwards, and show method is helping us to show this visualized outcome here, right? So what is the library that a default ChatGPT is using is pandas and matplotlib. But if in case we want to use some other analytic libraries in the Python, then probably we need to mention that very clearly in our question while we are questioning to the ChatGPT, right? So this is how we can effectively use ChatGPT to learn a new libraries, or you want to learn new language, and probably we can make use of this ChatGPT efficiently, and we can understand how these codes are going to function, because it's also going to help us in generating the action that it has taken to generate that code. So step by step it's giving more clear information. So what kind of function it is using, group by function, plot function, what is a filtered condition is 2000 onwards. So toDateTime is a function which is used to convert the given date into a datetime object, and is also using a read Excel function in order to read the data from the given Excel file. So all these are pretty much highlighted, and it gives a very detailed explanation for beginners to understand. So if in case you want to have further conversation with the same question, then probably we can initiate that conversation as well, and that is going to be called as the continual conversation. And with the help of continual conversation, you can ask any type of questions further. So let's say, for example, if I wanted to know, let's say, what is the purpose of using pandas library in this code. So if you have to get more further understanding that why this ChatGPT is using pandas library, then you can even ask that as a question, and let's see if that is going to give any detailed explanation. Yes, the pandas library is used in this code for several data manipulation tasks, and what it is used for is also mentioned very clearly. So pandas are used to read the Excel, convert the datetime into a given datetime of string into a datetime object, and it is also further performing the group by operations, right? So all these are the tasks that's been achieved with the help of the pandas library, and that's the purpose of using the pandas library here. And it is also used for the visualization purpose. So in Tactly they are using matplotlib as well for it. So if you wanted to have more continual conversation, then probably you can initiate that continual conversation with the ChatGPT, so that the ChatGPT can understand what it previously responded, and according to that response, based on your new question, it will give you a new response as well, right? So this seems to be pretty interesting. So we used to have a lot of questions. The ChatGPT is the right platform because it's a lot of controversies are there on top of the ChatGPT. But let's forget about everything and let's focus on our learning with the help of this interesting tool, the AI tool, and we can productively see how fast we can learn things quickly with the ChatGPT. So this video would have helped you a lot in understanding how efficiently and quickly we can question the ChatGPT to generate the response as we desired. So if in case you have any question, please do drop in your queries on the comment section, so I'll try to help you at my best. So thank you so much for your time. We'll come up with another interesting video relevant to the ChatGPT plugin integrations in Visual Studio Code, and that's going to be a quite interesting video as well. So until then, have a great day. Thank you.